These are the Adidas Adizero Adios Pro 4, and these are the Nike Alphafly 3. Both are top-of-the-line marathon racing shoes, so how do you know which one to buy? Well, on today's video, I'm going to be comparing these two shoes to help you decide which shoe is right for you. All that's coming up, so be sure to stick around. Hey everybody, I'm Tim and this is Run Tall. If you're new here, welcome to the Run Tall family. I'm really glad that you are here and you found us on YouTube. Now I post videos all the time about running, training, recovery, and gear reviews. So if you're into that kind of thing, be sure to subscribe to the channel and don't forget to click the notification bell so you'll be notified each time that I upload new content. Now before I get into it too far, I do want to get a disclosure out of the way, just to let you know that I did purchase both of these two shoes with my own money. So no one's paying me to make the video, no one's telling me what to say, and no one from either Adidas or Nike have an opportunity to preview my thoughts before I share them with you first here on YouTube. So let's start with cost. The Nike Alphafly 3 retails for $285 US, and they're pretty readily available. These came out at the start of 2024. Now, you might not be able to find the exact colorway that you're interested in, but chances are, if you're not too picky, you'll be able to find some in your size at that price point. Now, the Adidas Adizero Adios Pro 4 has not been released yet. It's due to be released at the start of 2025, and it retails for $250 US. Now, you might be able to pick up a pair a little bit early, like I did, because if you watch the different websites, so if you go to Adidas or maybe to Running Warehouse, they've been running lotteries where you can put in for an opportunity to purchase a pair early, and that's what I did. Mine came through Running Warehouse, submitted my name and email address for the opportunity to purchase a pair, and I was lucky enough to be able to do that. Okay, so let's talk about size and fit. Now, when it comes to what size to buy, I ordered mine true to size, and they both fit me perfectly well, so that would be my recommendation. When it comes to weight, I like to use my own scales because a lot of times, not every time, but quite often, when I put the shoes on my scales, it varies just a little bit from the stated weight that they have in their descriptions. Now, for the Nike Alphafly 3, these are the lighter of the two options. On my scales, they came in at 6.9 ounces or about 195 grams, while the Adizero Adios Pro 4, now they came in at 7.1 ounces or about 200 grams. They're still both really lightweight shoes. There's not a big noticeable difference when you pick them up. It's not like there's a big wow factor between the two. So while the Alphafly does run about 5 grams less, you don't really notice it when you have them in your hands. Now, while there's only about 5 grams difference in the weight, that's about where the similarities end because these shoes are very, very different. The upper, the midsole, the outsole, I don't know that two shoes could be much more different and still serve the same purpose as these two shoes do. So let's take a look at the Alphafly 3, and we're going to start with the upper material. They're using Atom Knit. Nike's used Atom Knit in all of the different versions of the Alphafly. It's really durable. It is highly breathable. You can see right through it. Lots and lots of, well, I don't know if I'd call them perforations. It's much more of a screen type of a material. So if you live in hotter climates or your feet generally do run hot, even on cooler days when you're out running, I think you're going to appreciate the amount of airflow that these give you. Now, it's a little bit different than the Adios Pro 4. It doesn't have quite the same amount of airflow, but they are very, very comfortable on foot, and I haven't had any issues with them running hot. So while you're not getting that gush of air that you feel when you're wearing the Alphafly 3s, they're more than adequate on the airflow. I would just say that the Alphafly is a little bit cooler on foot just because of the design of that Atom Knit material. The Alphafly 3 does have a booty style construction, so the tongue is basically sewed right in. It's really all one piece. It makes it super easy to be able to get your feet into these pretty quickly because you don't have to navigate a tongue at all. You don't have to worry about it laying flat on your foot because it's all one piece. And it's a bit stretchy, so the area where your tongue would be has a bit of stretch to it. So I can take my fingers and kind of pull on that material, and you can see how it does have some stretch, which gives it a little bit of freedom to allow your feet to slide right into these shoes because it has some give to it. It has that little bit of stretch. I found that to be really comfortable. The downside is when you're lacing these up at the lace enclosure system, I do get a bit more puckering down here, more so than I do with the Adios Pro 4 that has a more traditional tongue style. But I do find this to be super comfortable. It's really not padded at all. There's really no additional padding, but it is a slightly different material that is a little bit softer across the top of your midfoot. So let's take a look at the Adios Pro 4. Now this is a more of a traditional style shoe here. So you see that it does have a tongue, but they improved the tongue over the previous version of the shoe because they have it sewed in. Previously, I had to really fight with that tongue because it was always flip-flopping around and balling up on itself. Now I don't have as much trouble with that. It lays flat across the top of my foot as I would like it to. But I do still have to navigate it just a little bit as you would with any pair of running shoes, whether it's a daily trainer or what have you. Where the tongue is a more traditional style, you're still going to get that tongue material kind of rolling up on itself. It's also a very thin tongue. There is a slight bit of padding that goes up the center of it to help the laces from cutting across the top of your midfoot, but I didn't have that issue with either shoe. And since we're talking about the laces a little bit, let's just take a look at the lace enclosure system. Being a traditional style tongue, it has a very traditional lace enclosure system. So they didn't try to get cute with it here at all like they did in the previous version in the Adios Pro 3. I really appreciate that. It is super comfortable. It was easy for me to get dialed in, get locked in and secure across the midfoot all the way back to my heel using the style of the lace enclosure system that they have now. Now with the Alphafly 3, because it's that booty style construction, it's not necessarily a traditional lace enclosure system. Instead, they have these loops here. There's no real place for a runner's knot, so you don't have that ability to put in that additional loop in order to run with the runner's knot, but I've never needed to with these. Although I do find that with the Alphafly series, it being a bit more difficult to get locked in for me because I really do have to cinch those laces down quite a bit, and I get that little bit of puckering there at the start of this lace enclosure system, but I can get there. But it did take me, there was a bit of a learning curve when I first started running in Alphaflys, starting with version 1. But since I've learned that, basically everything that I needed to do with that shoe, I continued to do with this one, and everything seems fine. You know, I just have to cinch those laces down quite a bit. Starting really with about the second band there, and that's when I really start cinching those laces down to get me a nice secure fit all the way back to the heel cup. Then as we work our way back around the shoe, you can see where they've got the collar here. There's a decent amount of padding for a marathon racing shoe around the heel collar and the tab of the shoe. More than enough to keep it comfortable. Didn't have any issues with that at all. The one thing that I will note is that the Alphafly 3, the collar comes up a little bit higher than it does on the Adios Pro 4. So they are just a taller upper. Now, the reason I mention that is that can be an issue for some people, and it has been an issue for me in the past with other shoes. And for me, that was the Rencon by Hoka, where like this, it came up a bit higher around my ankle, and it was rubbing on my ankle bone, and it was so much so that I couldn't run in those shoes until I put a taller insole in them to raise my foot up a little so I didn't have that rubbing. Now, while these are taller, I didn't have any issues with them. I just thought it would be something to, worth mentioning to you, because if that has been an issue for you, where taller uppers like that, rubbing on your ankle bone has caused you some problems in the past, that's just something to take note of, that's a possibility, I think, with the Alphafly 3. But again, I didn't have that issue. I've never had that issue with these shoes at all. I have had some comfort issues in the original version and in version 2, but it had nothing to do with the collar of the shoe. With the Adios Pro 4, you can see that this is a more traditional height. It's not nearly as tall as the Alphafly 3 is, and they have about the same amount of padding, really, around the heel collar and the tab of the shoe. Both very, very comfortable, more than adequate to get you through marathon race day. And then as we look at the heel counter and the pull tab back here. You know, now this is just a little bit cute, right? So it says, "This too shall pass." I don't know if they mean that if you're wearing the Adios Pro 4 that these shoes are going to pass everybody out on the race course, but maybe, because they're pretty quick. These can be used, these little elf type flares on the back, as an option for a pull tab to help you get your shoes on. I haven't used that. Basically, I just leave that down all the time, and I kind of use my finger as a shoehorn to help me get my foot in to be able to pull this up over my heel. Not a lot of structure back here, but you wouldn't expect any, at least not too much anyway, in a marathon racing shoe. It's about what you would anticipate them having. With the Alphafly 3, these do have a more traditional loop here that you can grab a hold of, which makes it really easy to get these shoes on your feet. Like I said, you don't have to navigate a tongue at all. You just kind of grab a hold of this piece and grab this and slide your foot right in, because it has a bit of a give or stretch in that tongue area. And just like the Adios Pro 4, not a lot of material back here, certainly not a ton of structure at all, but it's more than enough to get you through on race day. The midsoles between these two shoes is very different. The technology is very different. Now, with Nike, of course, they continue to use their ZoomX foam, and then they've got a lot of it. They got 40 millimeter stack height in the heel, and then they've got 32 millimeters up in the forefoot for an 8 millimeter drop. Then also embedded within the foam is a full-length carbon fiber plate, and then up in the forefoot of the shoe, you can see that they continue to use the air units or air pods. Now, one of the changes that they did make from previous versions of the shoe is the midsole is now one continuous piece, where before it was somewhat two different pieces. They had quite a bit of a cutout here in the forefoot of the shoe, or right about in the midsection of the shoe. Now, if you're a heel striker, this design, I think, lends itself to a more comfortable ride, a smoother ride, a nicer transition from your heel to the toe. If you're a mid to forefoot foot striker, you're probably not going to notice a huge difference. I didn't notice a big difference, except if you were running at slower paces, where that full-length design is a little bit more comfortable. Now, with the Adios Pro 4, now they're using Light Strike Pro foam. It's also very soft, lots of energy return. They have nearly the same stack height in the heel. They have 39 millimeters in the heel, but they have a 6 millimeter offset. So then you got 33 millimeters up here in the forefoot of the shoe. And if we turn it over, you can see that they're using their energy rods as opposed to a full-length carbon fiber plate. Both feel really terrific. I do like the energy rods. They have just a little bit more give to them, so it has a more natural feel. And I would say that's exactly how I would describe the ride of these, the Adios Pro 4 compared to the Alphafly 3. Is these are a bit more natural, because those air units, while they give you a lot of energy return, you do notice that they are a more mechanical feel to the ride, so not quite as natural as I move through my gait. I think the big tell will be in the latter miles of a marathon. Will the air units, as I reach down and grab the shoe, will these air units hold up a little better and maintain the integrity throughout 26.2 miles, or anywhere from 3 to 4 hours or 5 hours, depending on what pace you're running for your marathons? Will that hold up better than the Light Strike Pro foam will? Well, my initial run experience in both of these shoes, and I put one on one foot and one on the other foot just to get a better sense of how they're going to feel. I do feel like I'm getting lots of energy return out of the Adios Pro 4. There's a lot of that Light Strike Pro foam up here in the forefoot of the shoe, and you can see how aggressive they made this rocker design. So I am landing, even when I'm solidly midfoot feeling, I can still feel that rocker's right there, and it wants to push you forward and be aggressive to help you move through your gait a little quicker. And that just feels so comfortable. That is so much of that Light Strike Pro foam right where you land. It feels really soft, but amazingly, I get a lot of energy return as I move through my gait cycle after striking the ground. Now, I still get lots and lots of energy return off these air units, as I always have. The ride of these is smooth. I would just say that it's not quite as natural or as smooth a feeling as I get with the Adios Pro 4. So let's flip them over and we'll take a look at the outsole, see how they're protecting all the ZoomX foam and all of that Light Strike Pro foam. And we'll start with the Alphafly 3. Now here you can see that they have a ton of rubber. They've got some places here in the heel And then nothing right there in the midfoot section of the shoe, but basically starting just before those air units all the way up through to where you toe off, there's tons of rubber there in order to be able to protect all of that Zoom X foam and to give you a little bit of grip. And you can probably see those knobs there on the rubber itself, which does definitely help keep you tight to the ground. I didn't have any issues slipping around in these at all. Now with the Adios Pro 4, they're using Continental rubber in the toe off, which gives you nice grip at where you're going to need it or want it. And then they're using a material that they call Traxion. Now, while it doesn't look like there's as much of maybe grip or lugs on the bottom, because you can actually see a little bit of lug material on the bottom of these shoes, it's still about the same. It's just the color of that Traxion, I'm going to say rubber substitute. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but they tell me that it's not traditional rubber, but it's a little bit lighter. And, you know, it does still have those same depth of lug. It's just you can't see it because it's that kind of a, I don't know, brownish blonde color, and it blends right in. But they are there, and the grip is solid on both shoes. I didn't have any issues feeling like I was unsafe running in either one of these. And again, they've got lots of rubber back here in the heel, just like we saw with the Alphafly 3, and then a lot of rubber covering basically from the midfoot all the way up through to where you toe off. So I don't think that's going to be an issue at all for either shoe. When it comes to running in these, you know, I talked about that just a little bit when we talked about the midsole ride. They're both super comfortable, and they're going to do a great job for you on marathon race day, regardless of which shoe that you decide to go with. If you're trying to decide between these two shoes, you know, my best advice is if you're a big fan of Nike, stick with it, because, you know, these are terrific. They're absolutely fabulous to run in. I think that they took a really, really good marathon racing shoe and they made it just a little bit better with the tweaks that they've made to this particular version of the shoe. I didn't care for the version 2 as much. I felt like they were still a good shoe. I didn't feel like they were as fast a shoe as version 1 was, and what I think version 3 is going to be like on marathon racing day. Now with the Adios Pro 4, again, they made a good shoe, a great shoe. They, you know, with the more aggressive rocker design. I love the fact that they changed the upper on these to accommodate or to fix some of the problems that they had with the Adios Pro 3. Super comfortable on foot. In terms of the overall comfort of the upper, I do prefer the Adios Pro 4 over the Alphafly 3 in terms of just the overall comfort of the fit. But you know, you are making a slight trade-off in that the Alphafly 3, I think, is a little bit cooler underfoot, and they're a little bit easier to get on your feet. You know, the one-piece booty construction design is super simple to get on, and you don't have to worry about the tongue kind of balling up or bunching up, as I mentioned earlier. I think the Adios Pro 4 is a slightly more natural feel to them, that there is a lot of cushion up here in the forefoot, and you're not losing any of that cushion, and you're still getting a ton of energy return as you move through your gait, just kind of bouncing through. Feels absolutely terrific. Whereas you're getting very, very similar ride, only the difference is you can feel those air units, and they do feel just slightly mechanical to me. Doesn't mean that they aren't going to be as fast or you're not going to be comfortable. I'm just saying that you do notice them a little more than, well, you notice them, you notice that they're there. You just notice that they're there. So it doesn't feel as natural as I'm running in the Alphafly 3 as I do in the Adios Pro 4, which are, again, a more natural ride. All right, you guys, hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. Oh, and if you're wondering, I've already bought 2 pairs of the Alphafly 3 because I have so much confidence. This is really the shoe that I've run the majority of the marathons that I've completed have been in the version 1 of the Alphafly, and I have a lot of confidence that version 3 is going to be even better. However, these are pretty darn terrific. So it's going to be a tough decision come race day, but if I had to pick between the two, I'd probably stay with the Alphafly 3, not because these aren't great, it's just because I have confidence in running in the Alphafly because that's what I'm used to running in. So I am a little bit biased in the fact that this is what I've had success with in the past, but I wouldn't have any problems at all picking these up and running them if that was what I had available to me on race day. And probably will run a marathon in these because You know, I really would like to see what these can do on marathon racing day. I want to see how they perform over that 26.2 miles. So coming up in 2025, I'm sure I'm going to be picking these up on race day, and we'll let you know how that goes. It's always fun to talk about. All right. Now, thanks for making it to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed making it for you. As always, run tall, run strong, be kind to one another. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.